One of the things that we try to do, though, is wait until we have other songs that go together.
Prince finally revealed the 6 bands he hated the most. Prince Rogers Nelson, 1958-2016, was an American singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, and record producer who became one of the most influential musicians in modern history. Known simply as Prince, he fused rock, funk, R&B, and pop into a unique sound, pushing artistic and cultural boundaries. His hits like Purple Rain, When Doves Cry, and Kiss became timeless anthems. Renowned for his flamboyant style, virtuosic musicianship, and fierce independence, Prince challenged the music industry's norms, famously changing his name to an unpronounceable symbol during a contract dispute. His sudden death in 2016 shocked the world, leaving behind a groundbreaking legacy. Prince, as a perfectionist, overshadowed by the music industry and his label, Warner Brothers. It sets the tone that he's outspoken about both his artistry and his contemporaries. Prince is quoted as saying in 1985, "There's no such thing as perfect, but there is such a thing as unacceptable," introducing his uncompromising view on music standards. Prince's disdain for Michael Bolton. Throughout his career of fearless artistry and uncompromising standards, Prince was never shy about voicing his opinions on music that fell short of his expectations. One of the clearest examples of this came with his disdain for Michael Bolton's famous cover of When a Man Loves a Woman. To many listeners, Bolton's version was a soaring ballad that showcased his vocal power. But to Prince, it was the very opposite of what soul music was meant to be. He reportedly dismissed the rendition as nothing more than artificial soul, arguing that it stripped away the grit, vulnerability, and raw emotion that had defined the original recording. In Prince's eyes, Bolton's polished delivery and glossy production made the track feel less like a heartfelt performance and more like a carefully manufactured studio product designed for mass consumption. This critique wasn't simply about one song. It reflected Prince's deeply held belief that soul music, and really all music worth remembering, had to be lived, felt, and born from genuine human experience. He often said that great music should move people to tears, challenge their understanding, or make them feel something they couldn't quite put into words. By that standard, Bolton's cover, no matter how commercially successful, was empty. Prince's rejection of Bolton's style also revealed how seriously he took artistic integrity in both himself and others. Insiders recounted stories of Prince deliberately avoiding being photographed with Bolton at industry events, as if even an image linking the two could undermine his principles. This was especially striking given Prince's reputation for embracing collaboration across genres, from funk to rock to jazz to pop. Yet when he perceived music as manufactured emotion, he drew a sharp line that he refused to cross. In a pop and R&B landscape where commercial formulas often outweighed authenticity, Prince's disdain for Bolton was more than personal taste. It was a declaration of what he believed music should stand for. For him, music was not just sound arranged in rhythm and melody, it was truth, an unfiltered reflection of life itself. Anything less, no matter how popular, had no place in the creative universe he built. Prince and Madonna's artistic clash, following the tension he already harbored toward other artists. Prince Rogers Nelson's disdain for Madonna was rooted in his deep belief that music should be an authentic, soul-driven craft, not a vehicle for mere spectacle. In private conversations and subtle public remarks, he rejected any serious collaboration with her, dismissing suggestions of a duet. Prince famously quipped that Madonna's musicality was no more than that of a mixing console, a biting metaphor that implied she was all about surface-level production rather than genuine artistry. In his view, Madonna's career was built on calculated provocation and image control rather than the raw, emotive connection that defined true musicianship. He saw her as someone who meticulously engineered her public persona, provoking controversy, reinventing her style, not to deepen artistic expression, but to keep media attention at a constant boil. This approach clashed sharply with Prince's ethos, where experimentation was for art's sake, not for headline making. Their professional paths crossed enough for him to observe her work closely, and each encounter reportedly reinforced his skepticism. Industry insiders recall moments when promoters floated the idea of a high-profile Prince-Madonna performance. Prince's refusal was immediate and unequivocal. For him, the stage was a sacred space where authenticity reigned, and sharing it with someone he perceived as prioritizing spectacle over substance was simply unthinkable. This tension wasn't just about personal taste. It was a philosophical divide on what it meant to be an artist. Prince's rejection of Madonna's methods was as much a defense of his own values as it was a critique of hers. In the end, their inability to bridge that gap became part of the unspoken narrative of two of pop's most iconic figures, forever linked by fame, yet worlds apart in creative vision. Prince versus Timberlake music feud, following his outspoken critiques of Madonna and Michael Bolton. Prince Rogers Nelson also took issue with Justin Timberlake, marking yet another chapter in his complex relationships within the music industry. The tension began in the early 2000s, when Timberlake released his debut solo album Justified and the hit single Sexy Back. Prince, a pioneer of the Minneapolis sound, believed that Timberlake had borrowed heavily from that style without acknowledging its origins. To Prince, this was not simply an act of imitation, it was a lack of respect for the legacy and cultural roots of a genre he had helped shape. The situation escalated when Timberlake, during the 2007 Golden Globe Awards, made a pointed joke about Prince's height, while accepting an award on Prince's behalf. Timberlake bent down dramatically to the microphone, mocking the fact that Prince was shorter than him. For a man who guarded his personal dignity as fiercely as his artistic vision, this public jab struck a nerve. Prince's criticism wasn't just about personality clashes. It was about authenticity in music. He had long fought against the industry's tendency to reward image over substance, and he saw Timberlake's work, polished, commercially oriented, and heavily influenced by others' styles, as emblematic of that problem. The combination of artistic grievances and personal insults ensured that their relationship remained frosty until Prince's passing. In interviews, Prince never missed an opportunity to emphasize that honoring the origins of a sound was just as important as performing it well, a lesson he felt Timberlake had yet to learn. Prince's grudge against Maroon 5, following a long list of artistic disputes. Prince Rogers Nelson's frustration with Maroon 5 stands out as one of the clearest examples of how protective he was over his musical legacy. The source of this animosity traces back to 2012, when Maroon 5 released a cover of Prince's iconic 1986 hit Kiss. To most casual listeners, it was a harmless tribute, but for Prince, it was an affront. Known for his meticulous craftsmanship and his belief in the purity of musical expression, Prince felt that Maroon 5's version stripped away the song's essence, its minimalist groove, raw sensuality, and tight funk rhythm, and replaced it with an overproduced, radio-friendly sheen. What particularly angered him was the fact that, according to his own words, the band had never sought his permission. Prince was famously protective of his catalog, often refusing to allow streaming platforms or films to use his music unless he approved the context. For him, Kiss was not just another hit, it was a product of his artistic philosophy. Less is more. And emotion should never be buried under excess. In interviews following the cover's release, Prince openly criticized the approach Maroon 5 took. He lamented that too many modern acts were missing the point of the original work, choosing flash over substance. To him, Maroon 5's Kiss was a shiny but soulless rendition, one that completely misunderstood the song's DNA. Adding fuel to the fire was the sense that the band, fronted by Adam Levine, had capitalized on the track's timeless appeal without acknowledging or respecting its originator. Prince believed that true artistry required honoring the roots of a song, not simply repackaging it for mass consumption. The incident reinforced his broader critique of the pop industry, where commercial expedience often eclipses genuine creativity. For fans and insiders alike, the clash between Prince and Maroon 5 was more than just a fleeting disagreement or a matter of personal taste. It became a striking reminder of Prince's lifelong dedication to authenticity in music. To many, his reaction to their 2012 cover of Kiss symbolized his refusal to allow artistic shortcuts or careless reinterpretations to dilute the spirit of a song he had crafted with such precision and intention. Prince's disdain was never rooted in petty jealousy or competitiveness. Instead, it was born out of his uncompromising belief that music should carry raw emotion, space, and meaning, not be reimagined into something formulaic or commercially polished. Prince criticized Maroon 5's cover of Kiss, emphasizing the importance of musical integrity and the essence of artistic expression. Prince versus Black-Eyed Peas marketing, following his disdain for Maroon 5's interpretation of Kiss. Prince Rogers Nelson also set his sights on the Black-Eyed Peas, a group whose worldwide popularity was unquestionable, but whose artistic integrity, in his view, fell far short of true musicianship. Prince was never shy about voicing his opinions, and he reportedly described their music as a marketing meeting disguised as a song. This remark was not just a jab at the group, it reflected his broader philosophy about what music should stand for. To Prince, a song wasn't simply a product to move units or fill radio airwaves. It was supposed to be an extension of the artist's soul, something raw, emotional, and transformative in Prince's eyes. The Black-Eyed Peas, especially in their post-Elefunk era, embodied the opposite of this ideal. Their transition into a more commercial, radio-dominating act brought enormous success, but it also came with a sound that relied heavily on digital polish. Auto-tune, computerized layering, and heavily quantized beats became their trademarks. While fans celebrated these tracks as fun, futuristic, and accessible, Prince saw them as hollow shells. To him, the soul had been stripped out, replaced by formulas engineered to guarantee chart dominance. Songs like Boom Boom Pow and I Got a Feeling became cultural phenomena, blasting at parties, weddings, and clubs across the globe. Yet, from Prince's perspective, these were not creations born out of deep artistic intent, but rather products manufactured for mass consumption. He believed that such music crowded the airwaves and distracted from more authentic, instrument-driven artistry. This was particularly frustrating to an innovator like Prince, who had built his career by rejecting shortcuts, pushing boundaries, and reinventing sound itself. For him, artistry was never about following trends or chasing commercial formulas. It was about risking failure in pursuit of originality, about daring to reveal one's true self through sound. The Black-Eyed Peas, no matter how successful, represented everything he resisted: the commodification of music into catchy slogans and market-tested hooks. This philosophical divide created a chasm that respect could not bridge. To Prince, their success was undeniable, but it came at the cost of authenticity, a cost he was never willing to pay. Prince vs. Clapton Guitar Showdown, following his criticisms of the Black-Eyed Peas. Prince's most deeply rooted animosity in the music world was directed toward Eric Clapton, a clash of egos between two legendary guitarists. The tension reportedly began when Clapton allegedly dismissed Prince as all style, no substance, a remark that struck at the heart of Prince's artistic identity. Prince, known for blending flamboyant stage presence with unmatched musical skill, saw this as more than just an insult. It was a challenge. That challenge found its most public answer during the 2004 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame tribute to George Harrison. Sharing the stage with Tom Petty, Jeff Lynne, and Donnie Harrison, Prince unleashed a searing guitar solo during "While My Guitar Gently Weeps" that not only stole the show, but left fellow performers visibly stunned. Many interpreted this electrifying performance as Prince's direct rebuttal to Clapton's earlier slight. Prince's attitude toward Clapton wasn't softened by time. He once remarked, "Some people worship their guitar. I make the guitar worship me." A not-so-subtle assertion of dominance in the realm they both inhabited. For Prince, it was about proving that virtuosity and showmanship could coexist, that one did not have to choose between technical brilliance and artistic charisma. While Clapton and Prince never engaged in open public feuds in the tabloid sense, the undercurrent of rivalry was palpable to those in the industry. Prince's disdain reflected his broader rejection of traditionalist gatekeeping in music. To him, Clapton represented an old guard mentality that undervalued innovation if it didn't fit a narrow definition of authenticity. In contrast, Prince's career thrived on bending genres, blurring cultural lines, and refusing to be boxed into any singular image. The unspoken duel between them became part of rock folklore, a tale of two icons with radically different visions of what it meant to master the guitar. For Prince, every note was a declaration of freedom, a refusal to be confined by anyone else's definition of artistry, least of all someone who questioned his substance. Prince Nelson's enduring musical legacy, following his many disputes with record labels, industry peers, and even fellow superstars. Prince Rogers Nelson's legacy stands as one of the most transformative and enduring in modern music history. He was far more than just a performer or a songwriter. Prince redefined what popular music could sound like by breaking down the walls that separated genres. With a fearless approach, he fused funk, rock, R&B, pop, soul, and even elements of jazz and electronic music into a sound so distinctive that it became instantly recognizable as his own. His ability to move seamlessly between instruments, his mastery of the studio, and his electrifying live performances elevated him into the rare class of musicians who could both innovate and captivate on a global scale. Prince's relentless independence became just as important as his music. His highly publicized battles with Warner Brothers over creative control and ownership of his master recordings were not just personal fights, but symbolic moments in the history of the music industry. By writing the word slave on his face and later changing his name to an unpronounceable symbol, Prince forced the world to confront questions about artistic freedom, intellectual property, and the exploitation of musicians. These battles paved the way for future artists to demand greater rights, showing that creativity should never be bound by corporate contracts. beyond the industry. Prince was an icon of individuality. His fashion, stage presence, and unapologetic embrace of sexuality and spirituality challenged cultural norms and gave countless fans permission to embrace their own authenticity. He blurred traditional lines of masculinity and femininity, creating a persona that was both enigmatic and magnetic. His catalog of music, from the anthemic Purple Rain to the playful Kiss to the haunting When Doves Cry, remains timeless, continuing to inspire not only musicians across genres, but also listeners who find in his songs the courage to be themselves. Even after his passing in 2016, Prince's influence continues to ripple through the cultural landscape. Artists still cite him as a guiding force for experimentation and genre blending. His pioneering use of home studios, his innovative business decisions, and his refusal to compromise his vision left a blueprint for future generations who seek to balance artistry with integrity. Prince did not simply make music. He built a world where artistry ruled above all else. His legacy is both unshakable and eternal, a testament to the power of creativity, freedom, and fearless self-expression. Life lessons from Prince Nelson. Building upon his enduring legacy. The life of Prince Rogers Nelson offers powerful lessons that transcend music. Above all, Prince taught us the value of artistic integrity, never compromising one's vision for the sake of commercial success. His relentless pursuit of ownership over his work showed that true empowerment comes from controlling your creative destiny. Prince also proved the importance of individuality, encouraging others to embrace their uniqueness without fear of judgment. Through his philanthropic efforts, often carried out quietly, he demonstrated that influence should be used to uplift and empower communities. His story reminds us that greatness is not just about talent, but about courage, self-respect, and the willingness to stand for what you believe in, even when it's unpopular.